Welcome back to the LEC, everyone. Origin is getting closer to reaching top 2 as they secure their first victory in week 9 against Excel. And I have Destiny with me to talk about the game. Thank you for joining me.
Hello. Thank you.
It's an important week for OG here as the target is securing top 2 and therefore avoiding facing G2 early on. Is it something that impacted the way you played today, given that the outcome won't be influenced by your results only?
I don't think we really thought about G2 that much. We kind of took it as like a game-by-game approach. To be honest, like we're pretty much going to be locked second or third seed. So I think we're just focusing on the games that we have now.
And focusing a bit more on playoffs, there's been a discussion around what we can expect from playoffs about surprisings and upsets when it comes to rookie teams. What's your take on that? Like, who looks to be the most dangerous rookie team and why?
I think Mad Lions are probably the most dangerous rookie team, mainly because I feel like they're very flexible in draft, and I feel like the way that they play is very explosive. In particular, I think Kaiser is a pretty good support, so I feel like they might like do the run. Like I feel like they will be the team to look out for in playoffs.
Obviously, I think it's going to be different coming from best of 1 and switching to best of 5. So do you see any of these teams succeeding in best of 5 scenarios? Mad Lions, as you said?
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised. But in saying that, I feel like best of 5s is experience does show, especially for teams like Misfits who have Febevan. I feel like the veteran talents of the team will have to step up, and I just feel like the teams that control this mentality the best will do better.
I agree, and we'll see how these teams perform. But more about you. You came into this split as the first OCE player in the LEC. How is the European experience 9 weeks in, and when it comes to competitive environment and the LEC as a whole?
It's quite stressful. I won't lie. It has been tough. Oceania is obviously miles away from LEC in terms of like skill and infrastructure. But I have been doing my best. I feel like I have improved a lot since the beginning of the split. And I think as a whole right now, we're a pretty good team. So I just want to keep improving and doing my best in ensuring that I do my job.
Can we expect to see more of Destiny and a new side of you coming into playoffs?
New Destiny? Not really, to be honest. I kind of want to stick to what I'm good at and what I do best. And yeah, I don't want to like overthink it. I just want to play my game. And yeah, I'm not really afraid of playing anyone.
All right. Well, this is your final form, let's say, and you will still have to face Mad Lions tomorrow. Any hints on this one is going to go?
I think they're a good team. And yeah, we'll just treat them like any other team and do our best. No hype from me, sorry.
All right. Well, we'll see about this one tomorrow. Before letting you go, I just heard that Nukduck is the player of the game here, the key player of the game. And last week I talked with him about his champion Ocean and the fact that he's been playing so many champions over the years. So how has it been playing with Nukduck for a split?
It's really good playing with Nukduck because if you lock in a champ, we can kind of flex it to him. So for instance, like the Nautilus, we have like a lot of weird flexes that teams aren't willing to play. So it's good having like a wild card up your sleeve. And yeah, we've had very good results with it. So yeah, it's been fun playing with a veteran like him.
Yeah, and something that the teams will have to be mindful about coming into playoffs and facing Origin. Destiny, thank you so much for the interviews. And good luck for the last game you will have tomorrow.
Thanks, Laurie.
Well, we're going to take a break from now, and coming back, we're going to have the last game of the day, Fnatic versus Mad Lions. Stay tuned, guys.
Welcome back, everyone, to week 9 of the LEC. I'm gonna be honest, today in terms of games, I felt that there were, some studs, but maybe more duds. But I think that this next one is really going to deliver. It is Mad Lions versus Fnatic, and the stakes are very high. For each of them, of course, because the seeding is not yet determined in terms of the top 4, but what is more important for Mad, if they win this game over Fnatic, they lock that 4th spot going into the playoffs, which is so important, knowing that they'll have a double elimination possibility in those playoffs, which can be huge.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at where Mad have come from, that was not the expectation coming into the split. We started the day talking about how Rogue was a clear favourite for that 4th place. We talked about how expectations should be that maybe Mad could upset, but in reality, the expectations should be quite low, and now they're primed and ready to secure that 4th place spot ahead of so many other favourites.
It's absolutely crazy, especially with how the playoff bracket is going to work now, considering they get another life. I think for a young rookie team that is going to be so important, because in the end, this roster, this is the first best of 5 they're going to play. There's going to be a lot of jitters, there's going to be a lot of things that you need to figure out, and maybe that extra life is going to put them in a complete different light.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that we have to take into consideration, because when you look at Mad, they're a really interesting team. For the vast majority of this split, they actually spend a lot of their early games in a deficit. They're actually tied for the most deficits at 15, 10 out of their 16 games, but they're actually 5-5. right? This is a team that does such a great job of coming back into games because of the way they draft, because of the way they plan, because of the way they play. This team seems to just have such a good grasp of the fundamentals and how to play through their win conditions that they've just steadily improved upon throughout the split to get them in a position to secure this 4th place spot.
Well, let me ask you this question. Seeing how this is 4 rookies in Humanoid, who, of course, doesn't have that many years under his belt either, is this a good problem to have? The fact that if we have all the information, they have a bit of an X factor, they're able to upset the top teams or win versus the top teams, and they're able to come back in the games where they've lost the early games, because often we see from these younger teams that they can't close out the games where they've gotten a lead. So this is almost the opposite problem. Is it a better problem to have?
I think definitely it's a better problem to have. I think most of the time when you have rookies like blasting out on the scene, it's usually like mid laners or AD carries doing sick plays. But I just feel like Kaiser and Shadow brings that sense of understanding how to move basically on the map. They play together super well. They control space super well. And I think in general they show a lot of good signs of a team that is going to grow a lot in the making. I think considering this is the first spring and they're trying to operate at a higher level instead of trying to, settle for something small, I think is super cool, but it's going to bring a lot of inconsistency to the table that we saw in, for example, Humanoid and also Shadow sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that one of the concerns I have around this team is not only their inconsistencies, but when you look at their early game, they typically play through the bot side of the map. And when you're going up against a team like Fnatic, that's a very scary thing to do. In Week 8, Fnatic heavily invested in the bot side. Bwipo was roaming down there a lot, and this is something that he does a fair amount typically, but last week, it felt like they were all on the Rekkles hype train, and it was very difficult for Rogue to be able to deal with. We saw some great Pantheon play, we saw some great Ornn gameplay, and overall I feel like that this duo of Rekkles and Bwipo is just so impactful in Fnatic's success.
It's so crazy because in the end, we talk about like Rogue's improvements, Mad Lions improvements, but in the end, I feel like Fnatic and G2 are the teams that kind of improved the most coming into the second half. Fnatic specifically, something just clicked. I feel like the trust is there. They're realizing that, we can just play our own style. We have to figure that out in order to shape us up for that best of 5 that is bound to happen against G2. I think Fnatic's trajectory has been absolutely crazy.
No, yeah, that's absolutely true. If you look at Fnatic, they've cleaned up so much also still in their game. They're dying much less when they're still killing people very much. But if you look at Fnatic's last 9 games, they've lost to 2 teams, gentlemen. Who were those teams?
G2.
Yeah, and?
Mad Lions.
The Mad Lions! So there we go. How much of a chance do you give this Mad Lions versus this new and improved late season or late split Fnatic?
I feel like that we count Mad Lions out every single time. So as long as we keep counting them out, the possibility of an upset is real. And today we've seen some serious upsets. We've seen a lot of challenges. So, you know what? I think that right now, temperatures are optimal. Everything is perfect for the upset to happen. So keep your eyes on Mad. I think they're going to make this game spicy.
Temperatures? What are we?
I lost the 30, word. I was
25?
looking for like environment, the setting, and I went with temperatures.
All right, 21. Okay, degrees in Celsius. That is. Anyway, Yamato, go ahead.
Honestly, I wanted to say that Vedios hit the nail on the head because kind of get what he wants to say, but I agree. Everything kind of is aligned perfectly throughout the day, the upsets and so forth. And Mad Lions just need to win that one game to get 4th. This is the time to do it.
That it is. Let's see what happens. Mad Lions are fighting to secure 4th place, but in their way stands an LEC Titan. Let's see what happens.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Now, I'm Dracos, and one man who has not left the cask, despite us changing from the caster desk to the analyst desk, is Jacob Yamato Cannon Mebdi. And I love this because this is something that's only possible in the digital world. Because in our studio, you would have had to run like Usain Bolt himself to make it to the caster desk on time, but now you just get to chill, dude. Now we're going to have a similar conversation, but with live gameplay behind it.
Honestly, just try me, man. I can jog in my alligator shoes. I can get to the desk.
Why are you wearing shoes? You're at home, sitting at your desk.
I got the inspiration from you. I saw the picture with your knees. It looked good, I needed to it kind of makes sense. It puts me in the zone.
It makes you feel more like a person when you've been living in your house all day, when you put on shoes for the portion of your day where you're supposed to work. I see it. I get it. For now, though, we are entering picks and bans for Fnatic versus Mad, and as you talked about on the desk, this is a game with huge stakes. So something that we have to just generally keep our eyes on is what exactly, or how exactly each team is going to approach this draft. For now, it is the Kalista, the Aurelia, the Pantheon, and the Ornn banned away.
It's always the question of Mad Lions. They need to put everything on the table, especially with playoffs lingering so close. Maybe Fnatic need to hide some cards because in the end, the amount of weapons you come in to the playoffs with, having those secret weapons also adds another element to it. So I hope Mad Lions don't have to reveal too many cards today, and I hope Fnatic keep them close.
And hugely crucial, of course, for Mad Lions because both of their opposition, at least Rogue, their primary opposition for 4th place, lost a game earlier today. They are in prime position to make it into the top 4. Of course, still potential for them to get 3rd, but that one's a bit more of a far reach. They're going to start with top 4, and now first pick is going to be the Syndra. We haven't really seen this be a flex pick for Fnatic a lot historically, but maybe it's going to be something special today.
If we're talking about hiding things, it would be surprising if they're like, hey, we play Syndra bot, we practice it all split long.
All I'm saying is, I tweeted a picture because I was looking through solo queues today, and Selfmade has played a single game of Syndra jungle. He said on Twitter, it's trash, but if this goes jungle, it was all a giant bait. That's all I'm saying.
All about the mind games, huh? It's crazy though, considering, all these AD carry bans. I feel like Misfortune is going to be that high prior. I feel like Fnatic kind of have to see this coming. Oh, maybe not.
Ooh, the Thresh ban, or the Thresh pick coming out though, I like it. Fnatic very often pairing Thresh and Misfortune together, so Mad maybe trying to take away the half of that duo that they value more. And Yamato is like, as all these AD carries get banned away, we have to go deeper and deeper into the champion pools. I look at Misfortune, I look at Ezreal, and past that, it gets really crazy, really fast. But the Olaf lock-in feels like that one will go into the hand of Selfmade. After Cabo's Olaf top performance in previous weeks, I'm reticent to 100% say where it's going to go, but most likely in the jungle.
I think you're fairly accurate there. No Syndra jungle unless Olaf mid has been played in the past.
I didn't mean that Syndra was going to replace it's fine.
Olaf jungle seems pretty legit, man.
Yeah, Olaf seems very strong. There's a lot of setup between the Syndra and the set, and this is one of the things that I feel like is so infuriating about drafting against Fnatic right now, is that they have a lot of that spark that G2 had last year, where you got a lot of flex picks on their side outside of the Olaf.
Yeah, even right now, nothing is really settled. Like, Set can go support, and that can go jungle, as you mentioned. It can go AD carry, most likely mid. Olaf jungle, most likely as well. But it's definitely still in the air. I'm curious what Fnatic's gonna do when AD carry bans are starting to land. Because Ezreal, Kaiser, if they get out, what are you gonna play in that AD carry position?
Yeah, and it feels like Mad are just like, hey, we don't think you'll play this bottom. We'll ban the Ezreal. We'll ban the Kaiser. And they just say, hey, do it. I don't believe you. Do it. We think it's a bluff. So see if they're going to ban away the Kaiser as well. Have to feel like that'd be Rekkles' next choice.
Garen.
See how Mad... Yeah, Garen as well.
Garen, Karma. What's coming next?
Garen, Karma. We could have Garen Yumi back alive and well. She doesn't do damage anymore, but she can keep the Garen really, really healthy the entire game.
Yeah, it's good to promote health right now. It's a time to do it. You gotta stay healthy. Everyone stay healthy. Stay safe.
Thank you, Yamato. I appreciate your PSA. I'm sure the world does as well. Wash your hands. If you're watching this right now, if you haven't in a while, just do it. Why not? The Gangplank, though, is going to be the ban here. So they're not taking the Kaiser away, limiting some of Bwipo's comfort picks. It looks like they think the set is going bot lane. And if you're Mad Lions, Yamato, what are you thinking about right now? Like, what are you, when you look at this Fnatic composition, you said it's so hard to tell where anything is going. If you were their coach, what would you be trying to prioritize?
I wonder if they kind of just shoot themselves in the foot with Gangplank ban, because I like when Mad Lions just fourth pick a top laner, keep it blind. I think now they're going to lean towards an Aatrox maybe. Last pick mid lane, I think that's better for Humanoid. I think that's going through their mind. Just let them have the Kaiser so we know what's coming. I think that's the plan here with the GP ban.
Definitely cuts down on potential variables, and have to see if Fnatic want to go for that. For now, though, Aatrox, very safe blind pick, solid to have in the hands of Orome. See how Fnatic want to respond, if it is just putting the set top lane, or if they have something special cooked up.
Let's see, I'm trying to think. Can't think of anything spicy, but it's the Bwipo. He's the man to think of something spicy. I'm just going to let him lock in, not do any predictions, because I always look silly when I try to predict any Fnatic picks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like predicting Fnatic G2 is such a... We might as well just roll dice and guess where things are going to go. Zyrakan, though.
That still exists.
That's a throwback. It does still exist, you're right. Hylissang Rakan, something that was perma'd against him, I think, for most of the start of the season. And now it's going right into his hands, and that means that most likely we've got that set in the top lane and Syndra in the mid. Syndra Olaf, a terrifying duo to play against. And if I'm mad, well, yeah, they're going to be sad lions before they're mad lions at this rate, looking at this Fnatic composition.
Honestly, Fnatic, Zyrakan, I completely forgot about it, but I really, really like the lock-in. I think Rakan is super good against Trash, and it's very, very hard to go wrong with Zyrakan in general, unless you're playing like against a really, really hard counter with a very strong jungler, like a Caitlyn Morgana with Elise or something. And this is a case where I think they can get away with a lot. Zyrakan is going to scale super, super well into the game. We'll have to pay attention to that bottom side, because getting away from Olaf is super, super hard as MF Trash, unless Trash kind of positions with a Lantern or something like that.
I think on the mad side, though, good to see Humanoid has Zoe. That's going to be a relatively comfortable pick for him as well. Or for him, he's got the cleanse as well, so he can at least mitigate one of these ganks. I'm very concerned, however, Yamato, about Orome on the top side of the map. Not because of the matchup, but just because Orome isn't necessarily the strongest laner in the league, and Bwipo has, quite frankly, just been on fire for the past few weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you. Especially into Aatrox, I am a fan of this side, especially because he actually benefited from some of the bruiser item changes that came in with the Blade Ruin King. It's such a good purchase because you punch twice, apply that passive twice from Blade Ruin King. And I think in general, whenever Orome has played like a champion that is, requires activity in the early game, because I don't think Aatrox scaling is that impressive, like for example a Gangplank or something like that. We'll just have to see, because I think you have a great point that Orome might be a target.
Absolutely will. Well, here we go. The final game of our first day of Week 9. Fnatic versus the Mad Lions. And Yamato, there's a lot to talk about here in terms of lanes, but right now I think we got to talk about level 1's Fnatic. 4 members stacked up in the bush, potentially looking to start this game off with first blood. Shadow has to be very careful.
Oh,
spotted out. Looks like, yeah, Fnatic are going to walk away there, so they don't lose anything for doing that. They kill a ward, so technically are in the lead right now. You want to be
Fnatic is one of the few teams that actually gets in and does things level 1. It's such an easy way to kind of start off the game on such a strong foot, and especially with the Olaf. I like level 1 action in general. I support it.
I agree. I think it's one of those things where if you look at the potential risks on paper, a lot of teams might want to avoid it depending on how strong their level 1 is. But I think if you do it right, if you're grouped up and the enemy team isn't waiting 5 members stacked in the bush, it's mostly risk-free. Always a bit of a gamble, but Fnatic always seem to make it work now as we enter the laning phase. And inevitably, outside of the top lane, I got to put my eyes on the jungle. Yamato, Shadow, obviously a huge playmaker for Mad, but Selfmade on this very, very oppressive Olaf pick. What are the expectations here for the early game?
The key thing is Olaf needs to make sure that he uses his prior lane. I hope Syndra is going to contest in a very aggressive way. The key advantage Olaf has is, of course, that he clears faster. If Gragas gets to that point where he's level 7 and 8 and he's even with Olaf, all of a sudden Olaf is going to fall off. But he has a lot of good lanes here to work with, and as long as Olaf uses his advantage to get maybe Zyrakan ahead or maybe punish the Gragas in some shape or form, Fnatic's lanes are going to begin to kind of pay for themselves, and I think this is the approach that Selfmade needs to have. Needs to be aggression. I don't like the scaling approach when you play Olaf.
Absolutely agree. And that's why I always feel like Olaf is such a volatile champion. There's this pressure to get something done. It feels like anytime you see him on the Rift. He is 1 camp ahead and running to his 4th, whereas it's just the 3rd camp being started now from Shadow. Wolves into Raptors into red for Shadow. Meanwhile, entire top side now potentially into either Krugs or red buff. It will be red buff for Selfmade. So Olaf completely pulling ahead. Have to see if he even wants to go for any ganks at this stage. Bot lane has a lot of setup. Mid lane has a lot of setup. Only top lane really feels like it's kind of just doing its own thing.
I love the Olaf design. I don't think people appreciate it enough, because it's a Viking, Vikings just want to fight, they want to make it quick, they want to run it down, go to Valhalla, and then, their job is done. And then the rest of the late game is like, what am I doing here? I want to be sent to Valhalla. I'm 0-6 already. Make it quick. Make it quick, please.
It's like, I thought I died an honorable death. Send me to Valhalla. They're like, no, dude, you're back on the Rift. You're like, please, sir. This is it. I'm done. I died in battle. I would like to go now. Yeah, Leek's cruel that way, man. I feel like Olaf just wants to be free. He's just shredding through these keeps, waiting for his opportunity to die a glorious death. It's a rough life.
For sure, man. I wonder if that's his lore. I haven't read his lore. Wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Look, I'm just saying there's always more opportunities for a Yamato ASMR stream. We could make it a broadcast segment. It's an option.
Let's ship it, man. Let's ship it.
As we check in on the map, though, you can see actually Zoe doing pretty well in the mid lane matchup. About pretty significant CS lead, actually 10 up, burning through mana very quickly. However, you can see Nemesis at least has the advantage there. Only about 150 gold lead so far. And in the top lane, Bwipo's doing fine, and Orome's not falling behind, which is huge, because when you look at these top laners, Orome at 10 minutes is usually at about 70 CS. His opponent on average is at 80. So this is not a man who wins lane.
And Bwipo got this beloved cheater base in. He has the longsword advantage. That's why Orome is pushing in now, and Bwipo can walk a bit more aggressively. On the other side, Mad Lion is also on bottom. You saw Misfortune got this cheater base in with the Doran's blade. So it's funny how both of these lanes interacted and have a slight advantage here. If Fnatic get this wave in, then it's super good for them because the cheater base is not going to matter and they're going to walk away with a recall. That's cool.
Easy to pull in, and now Bwipo, despite the level disadvantage, is just monstering that trade. Orome burns the Umbral Dash at the first Q proc on the Darkened Blade, means he can't really get any follow-up as Bwipo backs off, and like you said, 2 cheater recalls. And that's the thing I think that people often forget about MF Yamato. I think we talk about it a lot, but how ridiculous Strut is, the W, how much movement speed that gives you, how you just have free Mobies all the time.
Yeah, it's just a mobility boots, just active in your kit. When you see those nerfs to Mobi boots, they cost 100 Gs more, and Soja's just giggling in her corner. It's quite OP, and I think Mad Lion is one of those teams that uses the best. That's why I was surprised when Misfortune got through in such a way, all the way to third pick, because Fnatic also liked it a lot, but the Zyrakan is also juicy. I think Fnatic is not going to look any worse because they gave Misfortune away in this one.
No, definitely not. Humanoid keeping the pressure up in the mid lane. It is going to reset now as he does shove that wave in. Most likely has to look for a recall, but instead chooses to stick around. The Corrupting Pot keeping him topped up on mana, but this mid lane, he's like, I want to see an aggressive Syndra, and it feels like it's a lot more about aggressively pushing the wave on both sides than it is about trying to go for anything too crazy.
Mage versus mage, the usual, both have a defensive summoner and cleanse, so there's not too much aggression. I think in this game state, considering Gragas is even, I think he's super happy. Infernal Drake over the fact that Misfortune is out of mana, needs to base. So I like Fnatic that they're actually getting some kind of advantages. I think this game is going to blow up in about, around 3 minutes around the Rift Herald. Maybe we're going to see some kind of spike with a team fight. I'm hoping for it, at least.
Yeah, and I think Mad Lions have to be painfully aware of that potential swap to fight for the Rift Herald. Of course, have the additional movement speed on the MF. Maybe she can get there first. And remember, Fnatic, they're fighting for second, and that is going to be hugely important. It means that G2, now locked in first, cannot choose them in the playoffs, but Mad's battle is even more important, because fighting and getting into top 4 means you get that extra loss. You get the full double elimination experience instead of getting knocked straight to the loser's bracket like Rogue and Misfits are set to if Mad Lions win this game.
That's absolutely nuts considering the position Mad Lions came into the Spring Split. They have 4 rookies, any type of experience that you can get. The first best of 5 can look night and day different in comparison to the next best of 5. So this best of 1 can mean you can play 3 more games, and that's just insane by itself.
Yeah, it's actually crazy how the stakes have just added up, because this was a game that was poised to kind of mean something, right? But at the end of the day, Mad's schedule was so hard and Rogue's schedule was on paper so easy that it didn't feel like Mad had a real shot. Now, Rogue losing in a way that I don't think anybody expected. Kind of just an abysmal game from them, and a great game from SK and the Inverside means that suddenly Mad are playing for all the stakes in the world. It was like they needed to beat OG or they needed to beat Fnatic, and now it's a sure thing if they can beat either one.
Yeah, from experience, just playing the last game of the day when these days are so tight and you have like the stars aligning for you. SK just suddenly smurfing on Rogue's face and just getting away with a W, just absolutely huge. Crazy for Mad Lions.
And now, I mean, like you said, we're kind of just waiting. You said, I think about 9 minutes was kind of the expectation. When is the Herald going to get contested? Obviously, it'll spawn at 8, and it's clear Selfmade setting up in that area, so they're aware of the objective. Looks like they want to put at least some priority down onto it. Humanoid, though, definitely playing with fire there. Luckily has Shadow to back him up, but always have to give that Olaf respect. Can just ult his way out of your sleep at any moment.
We have
Good
a situation where...
stun.
Oh. we have a situation where bottom, I feel like both lanes just are contesting the push so evenly. They're just kind of hitting the wave, and instead we have a situation where for the first time in a long time, it is the top side of the map that is contesting around Rift Herald. But it's so difficult to start it, because always when you start it, you're going to be in a worse position than the other team, because you are in that little cove. Sometimes the enemy has to face check you, but it's an interesting dynamic we don't see too often, because usually it's the bot lanes that rotate up to the Rift Herald.
I feel like this situation isn't too bad overall. Just kind of means I think that we're going to have this stalled out action for at least a little while. I like the confidence here, though, from Mad Yamato. Moving in, contesting this red buff, trying to take at least some of this jungle away. They're going to blast on over, and they're going to get spotted out, but they got 4 members on the bottom side. Selfmade's only 3. Syndra's not in the area. Fnatic.
TP.
And he used their TP. Bwipo has the TP advantage now. He's looking to use it. Now he's zooming his way in and dunking right down, but the Thresh is there to deny the play, and that's the TP advantage as well as the flash gone.
I think Orome just breathes out. Whew. He's like, I use my TP for my lane. I need to get back, beat by Ninja Tabi, and my team just secured this lane phase for me, because now the TP is gonna come off cooldown eventually, and they're going to be able to use this TP advantage. Orome is super happy. That's always what you get nervous about when you play top lane and the enemy has TP and Pride. You're like, please don't get triple kill. And he just got away with murder there. Super good for my Alliance.
Absolutely. You look at your bot lane, you're like, please, I know it's my fault, but please don't die. It's all I ask. Don't give him a kill. Don't give him anything. Like, please, I swear, I will turn this around if you just do not die to Bwipo. And lo and behold, the prayers are answered. Bwipo not able to find anything there. Gold dead even as we get close to 10 minutes. Fnatic's real only advantage is the fact that they have the Infernal Drake. And we're slowly getting closer and closer to that Blade of the Rune King for Bwipo, which I feel like will make this matchup very, very hard for Orome, especially because he's gone for the Colt.
What on earth is he buying? He's kind of buying a bit of everything. The Doran Shield, Cull, Kindred Gem, Ninja Tabi. It just means he's going to finish whatever core item he's building, which is probably Black Cleaver so late. Whenever that Blade Runner King lands, as you just said, it's going to be tough in that side lane. Hopefully the Predator Gragas are going to back him up and cover for him. That's what he's playing for next.
Now finally we have the swap, the Ignite already going down just to stop that MF passive from going through. Big damage follow-up. Carzzy not afraid, however. Rekkles stepping on the front line, flash forward. Rekkles now in trouble, uses his ult, wants to pull the feathers back, but Rekkles, no, biting off more than he can chew and coming out looking like a fool. Well played by Carzzy.
I can't believe it. Humanoid had a redemption in his hand. He just looted it on the wave, and he's like, hey, I'm going to toss it up like a pizza up there. And then I don't think even Carzzy realized, because he kind of stepped it into it so late. You gotta see the replay. It looked like such a free kill. The flash came out early. I thought Carzzy's gonna be dead for sure. The combo lands. Boom. The Guardian. And then there's a redemption. Where's this coming from? It's Zoe. Zoe looted it in the lane. It's so crazy that this happens, because it's just a difference of 1-for-1 with MF losing the wave. Instead we have a 1-for-0 and Zaya's losing the wave.
And Yamato, sometimes we're playing League of Legends, and sometimes we're playing Legends of Runeterra. Just like top deck redemption. Why not? You know what I mean? Just like draw the perfect card. Why not? Get exactly what you need on the Zoe. So, I mean, well played by Humanoid, well played by Mad, but for Rekkles, that's one of those, I don't even think you can be upset. You can be upset about Zoe getting that, but you have to know, like, oh yeah, I was right, but my damage calculations go from being perfect to 300 off when there's a free redemption involved. Now, however, the Herald resets. Fnatic have to walk away empty-handed once again. Mad's starting to pull into the lead, and because Fnatic are the team to start it, Mad are now in a decent position to take it themselves.
I was surprised that the aggro bar wasn't going down for some while. I thought Fnatic thought of some new strategy where you can take Rift out behind the corner, but luckily it reset, because it kind of blew my mind for a second there.
Yeah, I thought they were changing the game. Not going to come through, but Nemesis now going to be in trouble. Body slam. Nemesis cleanses out. Flash in. That's going to be the Ignite. Humanoid. Once again, this man's rolling perfectly on these summoner spells. The Lantern, though, will not save Shadow. Humanoid doesn't need it, and it's a bit embarrassing, but that means Selfmade will make it to 1-for-1.
We were talking earlier about how the stars have aligned for Mad Lions. Picking up an Ignite, securing the kill after the exhaust drops for Nemesis is just... it's so wild. It's so wild.
Wait, I think he got the Ignite top lane from Hylissang. I think
okay,
that's
thank
either
God.
I'm not sure. It's either the Creeper Hylissang. Without replay access, I couldn't look back and check, but pretty sure he got Redemption top lane, which gives him the kill. No, he didn't walk back to top lane. It is RNG. It is the creep.
My goodness.
What a time to be alive, man. Humanoid. This is why Humanoid plays Zoe. He's good at Zoe, and he's the best RNG we've ever seen.
What's coming next? I'm excited. You know, whenever those bubbles are going to float in on those minions, what he's going to pick up? Maybe a TP all of a sudden.
Ooh. think you can get TP anymore. I think they took that out because it was just too broken. Lucky for him. Can only steal Bwipos. Single TP in the game, which is interesting because Fnatic are usually, have more globals, have more potential to move around the map. Surprised to see them. I understand why they have to take Cleanse mid lane, but surprised to not see them pack at least one more TP on this team composition.
I like what we're seeing though, we might have like a boring and slow game, but it just kind of shows that both teams are contesting the right space. So it's all about that river control on top side, and both teams are dancing around it. Whenever Mad Lions are showing in river, Fnatic take prior from top, and then it kind of bounces back and forth. It's all about, making sure when you face check these bushes that you don't get caught for like a hook or something. Oh,
good knockup. Charm, they're trying to follow through with all the CC that they can. They're going to take Shadow out before he can click the Lantern. Double, triple wards placed to deny that Lantern. Good coordination from Fnatic.
Luckily, there's no luck involved when it comes to lanterns. Just warding. Good catch there onto Shadow. Means that Riftel's going to be secured.
Another redemption. Nemesis is going to die. Oh, he's ticking. Corrupting Potion. Oh, outweighs the Corrupting Potion damage. Just barely living.
He's continuing. He's continuing. He doesn't stop Humanoid.
Humanoid is on a roll. And there's now a TP coming in from Mad. Not sure where we got. Oh, good news is Olaf is able to grab that one, but now he's running past Misfortunate Trouble. Self-made, playing like a man possessed. Connects, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Orome's going to come in and finish the job, but that was excellent from Selfmade.
Valhalla, take me home! He just sacrificed his life there for the Rift Herald. The fact that he stole it is so huge.
That was the Warrior's death. That was the Warrior's death we were waiting for.
He could just send him to Valhalla straight away. All the beer that he ever wants. Just take it.
Look, he slayed the giant monster. He slayed the MF2. Perfect situation. That's a hashtag worth sort of trade. We'll see what he does with the Rift Herald. Maybe this can get Fnatic out of the gold hole that they're in. It's only about 1,000 down, a little bit less. As Rome's trying to get something done here, but has to be careful. Hylissang can just re-engage. Luckily, Shadow is in the area. And Fnatic with 2 Drakes up, I feel like have evened things out overall, but I'm impressed with how Mad have been playing.
Yeah, my lines have kept up, and Humanoid, I feel like we call him inconsistent always for a good reason, because most of the weeks he was quite inconsistent, but I feel like he kind of mellowed out and has been more stable the last weeks. I think the next thing that I'm looking forward to now is, considering both of these compositions. Wait, whip on the bush. Whip on the bush.
Ooh, the long con. One man, one desire.
Clancy's back, huh?
Selfmade is pissed he didn't get the Valhalla. He's coming. He's running it down. Oh, he's trying to get something done, but Carzzy's just going to be able to grab the Lantern and walk away. Mid does not want to overcommit. Bwipo going to try to find someone to suplex back into the tower to use as a ferry to safety. The sidestep on that big fat haymaker connects on Kaiser. That's going to be the 1-2 punch. Bwipo flashing out, and Shadow buries him to safety with the cast. Incredible. Oh! Big whip on this cast, but now Bwipo and they're still alive. Oh, the double up! Are you kidding me, Carzzy? Carzzy find that one. He's going to get another one. The haymaker's not enough. Double kill for Carzzy, but he has to die in the process. What is this game?
My goodness, this was a 2v4. This was a 2v4 that ended 2 for 3. Oh my goodness, Fnatic get a full top tower, top side. They keep pushing. A lot of CS lost. Syndra's pushing mid. Everything is kind of collapsing it for Mad Lions because this dive was an absolute disaster. And on top of that, I loved how the redemption fell, but then I actually saw that, there's one in Kaiser's inventory, so thank God, not another one is dropping in terms of RNG. Let's see this situation again, because Carzzy gets saved by the Lantern, the redemption drops. How to see how this goes, because Bwipo plays it so beautifully. He catches Thresh, gets his path into the turret, and gets the stun off, and that W is just humongous from so many people, man. It's very, very nice here from Bwipo.
Gets the flash at the perfect time, so the cask sends him back under his own tower. With the Blade of the Rune King, he does so much damage. That was a generous angle on that double up, but it works in the end. Bwipo gets taken out. Good haymaker from Bwipo to turn it around as best he can, but that was... I'm going to watch that replay like 3 times after this cask, because that was just such a mess. It looked so cool, but no one walks away from that play like, yeah, okay, we played that one perfectly, except for probably Bwipo.
That was pretty damn wild. The change up for this game, though, considering mid turret is gone, that's so huge for a champion like Zoe. She always needs a lot of space to play with, having no mid turret, no top turret. Fnatic got so much space to play with. We're going to see some crazy Hylissang flanks on top of Humanoid, because this is how you defeat a Thresh and a Zoe. When they don't have the protection of that mid turret, it's going to become very difficult to contest the mid priors, considering there is no Rift Herald for them to take to even that out as well.
And Orome is getting absolutely blasted here. Can try to get a bit more healing. The tower is going to keep him alive for now, but that Blade of the Rune King on top of the Executioner's Calling means Orome has a very hard time in the 1v1. But we're going to turn back, though. Very aggressive. Predator now on the way in. Bwipo debating his options here. Has the Haymaker. Has to wait. Pulls back with the Facebreaker. Can throw out the Haymaker now if he wants to, but it's too little too late. And a good collapse from Mad Lions. But now Humanoid is the man in trouble. There's no way he makes it out of this one. Hylissang just going to ult for good measure. Going to be a kill traded back for Fnatic.
Seems like Bwipo also heard the rumblings of Valhalla. He just kind of ran up there and needs to pay attention to what Fnatic is doing on the map. They were hovering into bot side. Bwipo was playing safe side there. He had the TP advantage, and the only play Mad Lions have there is to attack the TP, because otherwise you're going to be outnumbered. Because Orome, as we mentioned before, has no finished item. He has a bit of everything. He kind of got everything on sale. You know, he went to a flea market, picked some stuff up. He's going to piece together some Black Cleavers and Death Dances soon, but at this point in time, Bwipo is definitely a little stronger.
It's like mom sent him out for groceries, and she's like, we need meat and we need vegetables. And he's like, I came back with rice. It was on sale. You know what I mean? The man can't resist a good deal, Yamato. He can't resist a good deal. I don't know what you want from him. At least he finishes the Black Cleaver now. Sadly, he dies on the top side in the meantime. And it's the goal lead for Fnatic. Still only 1,000, Yamato, but they have 3 Drakes. They're on Soul Point, and it's only 20 minutes.
So what about, you know, we look at the items of every carry. Can Syndra finish an item within 3 minutes? Can Zai have an IE advantage within 3 minutes? The next goal and how Fnatic funnel it or how Mad Lions funnel it is going to change the next fight so much.
Very true. Hylissang, though, getting cheeky with the flash W over the wall. Not quite the entrance that he was hoping for, but Mad maybe going to try to find the flank. Have to be careful, though. Rekkles knocked back. Hook just barely not connecting there for Kaiser. And it's just a slow, steady siege in the meantime for the side of Fnatic.
I know this Humanoid, he gets kind of awkward sometimes when he needs to play side lane. Obviously with Zoe you don't want to, but now with the mid turret gone, it's hard to kind of use her at all. He was all the way down bottom, and Fnatic were like, oh, we're 45 on the top side of the map, let's pick up this turret, or at least do a lot of damage to it, so it's going to be a free pickup later. And Humanoid here showing some weird tendencies here with the Zoe. You want to send Orome in the bot side, and you want to kind of play a 4-1 situation with the Misfortune Zoe. Maybe consider even putting Misfortune on side, because she's so much quicker with the movie boost that we mentioned earlier, so she can always move back after catching top side.
And Mad Lions is just a team that's kind of hard to predict. As we get into the mid to late game, sometimes they're making these incredible, fantastic plays. Sometimes they're getting caught left and right. And sadly, this game has been a mix of both for them. We've seen really solid plays. We've seen Orome getting caught. We've seen Humanoid getting caught. Maybe they can pull it together now as the team has grouped up here around the Baron Pit to lay down a bit of vision. But that's big damage coming in from the Syndra. Double Magic Pen means that Carzzy probably gets one shot if these fights don't go in their favor. The delay on redemption healing is going to cost them a lot in any potential fights to come, but Fnatic busy elsewhere on the map means that they will give up this tier 1 top tower.
That's difficult in a perfect macro game to keep those tier 1 turrets alive. They are in so close proximity to everything. Fnatic should be able to take a lot of mid lane space, but it seems that they're just hovering around mid lane. Not willing to face check any bushes while Zoe and Aatrox are showing on top side. I think they could be a bit more aggressive here. But I just thought it was hilarious how Humanoid looted another redemption and he just used it up top. It's just he's just calling a service. I need a redemption, and then the minions are coming in. Hey, okay, UPS.
Excuse me, Riot Games. Can I get a redemption, please? Oh, thank you. That's how we keep the script going. If you're wondering, we just throw a couple redemptions in. You know, make things interesting. That's a joke. Some people can't tell when I'm being sarcastic, so I just want to be clear that's a joke, because I'm going to get some conspiracy thread on Reddit like 5 minutes from now about like, are they serious? Are they doing? No, that's a joke. He's just very lucky. Which, hey, doesn't hurt when you're playing against Fnatic. And right now, still gold even. I'm going to keep saying it because it keeps being the case. But now with Dragon a minute away and Baron up, I am quite concerned for Mad Lions.
I mentioned those items. We have double needed to be Large Rod and that double penetration on Syndra. Finished Infinity Edge. This makes such a huge difference, because if you look at Mad Lions' side, no IE, no double penetration for Humanoid. So this is going to make a big difference in the next fight.
Yeah, Merc Tread's a bit awkward there. It means he will not get one shot by the Syndra with the ultimate, but also means that he's not nearly as lethal to someone like Rekkles. Good damage there, though, on the Paddle Star, and consistently trying to use this terrain to extend the range on the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, trying to find that big pick. And I mean, there's a Thresh, there's a Gragas, there's a Zoe. All it takes is one really good piece of CC to kick a fight off in favor of Mad Lions.
Mad Lions definitely need to land the right spells. They need to play the poke game, while Fnatic can be a bit more explosive in the way they engage. Hylissang, as long as he gets spotted, I think Mad Lions are very comfortable. Hylissang, I want him to see, I want him to come out behind, maybe W over the wall and look for a flank, because that is going to be the game decided. Mad Lions are looking for him. They know.
Gonna see it. Team looking over. Hylissang finds it. That is the best recon all I have seen in a very long time, but the follow-up is not there. Now, suddenly, Bwipo dunking back down, and it's ult after ult. It's highlight real material, but we're pulling 2 back to the face. Breaker and Fnatic still just absolutely shredding through on this fight. Excellent start from Hylissang. Good follow-up from Bwipo, and now Mad are just left running as the double kill comes through from Nemesis.
My goodness. Hylissang on the Rakan. I can't believe I forgot it in the champion select. Rakan. And that's the Ocean Soul as well. This is looking grim for Mad Lions.
Yamato, I think Mad forgot about it as well, because you can't forget the Hylissang Rakan. That was excellent engage. It took a little while for the follow-up to get there. I got a little concerned that he may have just ran in for nothing, but when finally the damage came through, it was more than enough, and now it's on Orome and Shadow to stop this Baron from going down. But with the Ocean Soul, Fnatic are going to be pretty healthy through the entire take.
Bwipo should just chase Gragas around. He's hitting the Nash, and now it's turning into a 50-50. Dangerous stuff. 4th place, Mad Lions.
Outer ticked. Can he get it? It's not going to be enough. He goes over the wall. Oh, hero play from Shadow, but he fails the flash too. It's insult to injury. Selfmade potentially in trouble here, but Bwipo's going to stick around, brother in arms. Doesn't look like they both want to go to Valhalla, though. Bwipo thinks better of it. He's going to make his way out on this one. Can try to turn, though. If Orome gets too greedy here, Bwipo can look to... He's trying to stall, trying to buy time for the ultimate, waiting on the Haymaker. The Ocean Soul keeping him healthy. So much coming in from that Ocean Soul. The healing here is disgusting. The Haymaker will not connect. But big damage from Nemesis. He is just cleaning house. Double kill in the last fight. Double kill now here around the pit. He's going to fish for the triple. We'll see who gets it in the end. But Mad Lions went from dead... or close, neck and neck in this game, to just getting absolutely blasted.
Fnatic just went for a crazy 50-50. They wanted to go for it, and then Mad Lions seemed to have like a good chase going on. And then Fnatic so ice cold and patiently, like, we can stall this. Whip was running around with his Ocean Soul. He looked pretty dead, but then boom, like a snapping turtle, just snap back, boom. Mad Lions cut in half.
Yeah. Today, on this episode of I Shouldn't Be Alive, a set with Ocean Soul refuses to die. And you can see Shadow, he's trying, and then in the moment as he gets pulled back, he panics. I think the pullback stopped that flash from taking him over the wall, and that's just brutal.
That was a rough flash. And then it's so beautiful here. Bwipo's like jogging around, like moving, he's punching a little bit, waiting for cooldowns. Nemesis casually doing blue buff, why not? And then here we go, here comes the snapping turtle, turn around Bwipo. Actually, I screwed it up. The snapping turtle comes soon. There's the snapping turtle. There we go. Boom, boom, boom.
I mean,
my timing was off.
Matt put the hand in the mouth. You know what I mean? If you put your hand in the mouth of the snapping turtle, and will you expect not to get bitten? So, well played overall by Fnatic. I gotta say, Bwipo was probably counting down the seconds till his ult came back up. He wanted to look for the dunking Aatrox to that back line, but for now, Haymaker's going to have to be the thing that keeps him alive. Ocean Soul and the additional regen on his passive means that he's still living, but Humanoid going to finish that one out. Meanwhile, the rest of Fnatic just looking to end the game, walking down, breaking some inhibitors. They've got bot lane, they've got mid lane, so while Mad got the consolation prize of taking down Bwipo after that last fight, not going to get much else.
It's one of those situations where I don't mind Bwipo dying, because it's just, I can imagine his voice saying, what are they doing here? They're losing the base. What are they actually doing here? Because they just lost a clean inhib, and maybe with Mad Lion's composition, maybe they could stall out a bit longer, you know, maybe poke with Zoe a little bit. You know, those extra minions are going to mean that they get a bit of more gold, but I don't think that's going to be the difference maker here. I think Fnatic are very happy to trade one for an inhibitor there.
Yeah, and you look at Bwipo's build, I mean, he's doing well in team fights, but he's also built to split push, so if they're going to send 3 people to kill him, the rest of the team is totally happy with that exchange. Now, good news for Orome is that he does now have the Death Stance, a bit of MR, a bit of armor now with the changes coming through on this patch, additional sustain too. Still think the 1v1 is so hard for him, but we've seen what an Aatrox can do in the right situation in a late game fight. Maybe he can find that flank and get something happening in Mad's favor.
It's also the conversation of playoffs and defining the kind of playstyles of these teams, and Mad Lions is one of those teams where I feel like they have the most success when Orome is playing something that is more weak side oriented, which is fine for an Aatrox most of the time because he's not going to fall that far behind, but I don't feel like Aatrox is going to be impactful enough for Orome in these team fights. I think you need to have like a pristine, crystal clear Aatrox, like a wonder in team fights, coming from those flanks, finding those angles, or
you need
even
that,
further, like the Shy.
Yeah, you need the Shy highlight versus G2 where he just like dunked down. It was against Fnatic. It was against Fnatic where he just dunked down and killed an entire team with a Q, basically. Like, that's what you need. And I'm not sure if Orome has it in him. We'll hold out, but for now, it is just the survival game for Mad. Fnatic can take their time. If they get Elder, the game is over. If they get Baron again, the game is over. So they're really in no rush.
They can just control the space. Hylissang is going to find that beautiful flank again because Mad Lions need to face check. And at this point in the game, no one in the game can actually face check. You're going to face check and you're going to die. You can pray for 3 redemptions if you want to. The Executioner's Calling is going to have a lot of value, but that's not going to save you at all. So Fnatic definitely in control.
Yeah, and important to remember, we've talked about stakes before, but for Mad Lions, they need you to win a single game after Rogue's loss today to secure 4th place in the league. One game. It's either here versus Fnatic or tomorrow versus Origin. One game is all it takes, and while they are down in this game, they're not out yet. They can't afford to get tilted. They can't afford to lose sight of the goal in front of them, because as much as it looks like Fnatic are poised to win, Mad turning this one around is hugely season defining. In the past, 5 versus 6, 4 versus 5 versus 6, like, nobody really cared. It was 1 or 2 or nothing. But in this season, with the new rule set, top 4 is everything.
For sure, man. So crazy. I just considering Misfits and Rogue, they don't have that much experience in best of 5s. When I look at Fnatic and G2, they don't kind of care. They just want to kind of win the whole split. That's what they're gunning at. At Lions, the other teams, it's all about that experience. Anything they can take, they should just grab. And this was the moment to grab it. Maybe a steal or some of the miracle Zoe bubbles. Who knows? It needs to happen now.
Nemesis right now setting for the pick in the bush. You can see him just spamming Dark Spheres just to make sure that ult's going to do as much damage as possible. Bwipo trying to get some mid lane control. Carzzy set to clear out the wave on the side. Everything is about setting up for this objective for both these teams. But right now, Nemesis is fishing for the pick. Ooh, good cast, good knockback. Shadow tries to go over the wall, but it's not going to happen. The re-engage is there. A beautiful Zhonya's going to buy a bit more time. The redemption coming in as well. Humanoid. Oh, the team. Are you kidding me? Fnatic, gods of team fighting here in the LEC. And now they're just taking their time with it. They're running them down, and Orome can't do anything. Hylissang's got the fancy shoes on. He's moving so fast, and Orome might get the lantern out to safety, but that is most certainly the end of the game as Kaiser is just next on the list. Double kill for Rekkles. He'll look to make it a triple as Fnatic will just barrel down the bottom lane and close this game out.
Honestly, that Zoe playing peekaboo, showing up, Bwipo picks him up, slams him down, and Fnatic, sure, Mad Lions, they still can live to fight another day tomorrow, but for today, crushing Mad Lions' dreams.
Beautiful win from Fnatic, gotta say it. Really, Mad Lions doing okay at the start of the game, but never really advantaged, just at best going even. And when Fnatic started to get rolling, there was just nothing left. You just couldn't do it. Ocean Soul was probably the final nail in the coffin, and Mad Lions were just slowly watching themselves lose the game. Brutal way to go out. But as you said, they have to stay composed. They have to play Origin tomorrow, and a win there will still lock them in top 4 and lock both Misfits and Rogue out.
Honestly, Fnatic just showing what top European class means. It's all about those small victories all over the map, the CS advantages, the movements, the pickoffs on, like, for example, Gragas before the Rift Herald, the way Selfmade played that little fight, all these small pieces that eventually amounts to the situation where, okay, the enemy team has an IE advantage over the BF and the pickaxe, and all of a sudden that 4th Drake fight looks so much easier for Fnatic because of all of these small advantages, just Fnatic with a very, very clinical performance.
Overall, yeah, it looked fantastic and some highlight reel moments as well. I think we had multiple beautiful ults from both Hylissang and Bwipo, the kind of setup that you love to see. And looking back at that game, I mean, I just think that what we're seeing from Fnatic in draft, I'm so ready for Fnatic versus G2. That's really all it is. I can think of a million different ways to say it, but that's the bottom line. I'm just so ready for Fnatic versus G2 because Fnatic are doing all the crazy stuff in draft that I love to see from G2. And they're looking stronger and stronger. And even though G2 2-0'd them this season, I feel like a best of 5 of that is everything I could possibly want.
It's going to be so crazy. It's crazy how fast the split has gone by, because that best of 5 is what we've been thinking about ever since we saw them play the last time. And now being so close to it is just absolutely insane. It's going to be an absolute banger. Mad Lions on the other side. I think they showed some promise here in this game against Fnatic. Definitely, if they play like this against Origin, I think this is going to be a competitive game, because I think Origin will not be the type of team that kind of rolls over you. And I think Mad Lions, if someone told me no name tags here, who's this team? I'll be like, oh, this could potentially look like an Origin level of gameplay. And I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. The last time Xerxes absolutely demolished them in the jungle, the Shadow with the Karthus. If Mad Lions don't do something like that where they just lose the game in 5 minutes, I think it's going to be a very competitive game.
And I just never know what to expect from Mad Lions, Humano. Sometimes they look incredible. Sometimes they look a little bit lost. We're going to have to find out. But in the meantime, Kia Player of the Game at Twitter is the place. At LEC is the account. Bwipo, Selfmade, or Hilly are your options. And in the meantime, we've got an interview ready with a member of the victorious Fnatic.
Thank you, Mithi, for joining me. Actually, it's the first today. It's been 9 weeks since you embraced this new challenge as a coach. So what strikes you as the most challenging part and interesting part of the work so far?
Hello. It's a good question. I don't really know how to answer that, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, I just try to help the guys, and I guess the challenge sometimes is dealing with 5 pro gamers. You know, you have to be a bit crazy to be a pro gamer, so but it's okay because I'm crazy too, so it kind of works out.
To be a pro gamer yourself, so you know what you're talking about, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I know that every team organizes in a different way usually. So can you tell me about the way Fnatic organizes? You have a mix of rising players and experienced players within the same team. So do you, as a coach, have the final word, or is it more of a discussion between you guys?
We try to make it be a discussion. I don't think I've ever been put in that situation yet where I have to make like a really final call about something very important. I think it doesn't really matter if people are experienced or rookies. Everyone has a lot of respect for each other and trust. I'd like to believe so, at least. So there's that. And yeah, I think it's just mostly a team effort. I think everyone just tries to play their part. Sometimes I feel like I'm like a little bit too much of like the guy that is telling people what to do, but we're trying to tune that down. I think like the role I try to have in the team is more of a sixth player that like, I don't know, that isn't very like, that is not playing, you know, and it's mostly just like seeing the game from the outside and trying to give them a fresher perspective on something. So that's kind of the role I'm trying to have.
I see, and you managed to do it really well. I mean, Fnatic is locked in playoff and maybe about to take top 2. And I mean, you've been carrying a heavy name, if I may say, because over the years, we often mentioned the expectations and pressure that comes with the orange and black jersey. So how did you manage to work around this and not let it affect you when you do your work?
I've had the luxury of having worn a lot of very important and colorful jerseys along my career. So at this point, you know, I just don't think about it too much. I just appreciate, you know, all the fans that support every team and just League of Legends and let us do what we do and, you know, make a living out of it. So I just go with the flow and try to help whenever way I can.
And you mentioned it yourself, you played for such a long time before role swapping, if I can call it this way. So did you have any expectations when it comes to coaching that turned out to be either false or more complicated than it seemed to begin with?
No, I mean, I think it's, the one thing that I didn't expect is the balance between watching games and playing games. Usually I've been playing for like 8 to 12 hours a day, every day in the past, and then having to watch games for like 6 hours and then like not really knowing what to do with my life. Cause, sure, I could do like the usual normal people stuff, going to the gym and taking care of myself, you know, all that stuff. But then at the same time, I actually feel like I want to play the game too. So I'm having a hard time balancing myself out, but I think, you know, with time, it should get better, hopefully. So yeah. We'll see about that, but the luxury is at least I'm playing a lot right now, so I also feel like I really understand like the game at a quite good level. So yeah,
and
I'm confident in what I have to say.
I have a follow-up on that because you've been playing for so long, and now you have to just you're on stage to draft, and then you have to go backstage and just basically let the magic happen. So how is it being not helpless, but just having to watch backstage when you've been used to playing on stage for so long?
Oh, it's really annoying actually, because I see the whole map and I also mostly understand what my players are going through in their thought process and so on. And sometimes I get really pissed off that they don't see any of that. So yeah, it's quite a frustrating feeling. At first it was just nerve-wracking, but now it's just getting more and more frustrating.
I mean, given the result, they must be doing pretty well. I mean, is there anything you would like to say to your players, actually? Some praise? I know that Bwipo is waiting for the post-game lobby, so anything you want to say to them?
No, they're doing great, of course. It's just like the feeling of being backstage and not really having any chance to influence the game that's making me frustrated. Not like that they're playing bad or anything like that.
I mean that.
Yeah, no, like the guys are doing great and they're putting even extra effort for players, and we can I can really feel that. We've been having the trouble of having to practice online and all that. So, it's kind of hard sometimes to get the point across and work through the internet without having the empathy of face-to-face communication. So, yeah, we've been trying to work around that, and I think everyone is putting in the extra work. So, really appreciate that.
Berlin internet not helpful lately, but I hope things can get better for the playoffs. Before sending it to PGL, I want to have your input on something. The broadcast will talk about who should be the spring MVP here. So who should get it?
The spring MVP?
Yeah. You can name 3 players. Make it easier, maybe.
No, I mean, I'll name Bwipo. I think he should get it from our team. I think he's done a great job this split.
Bwipo, well, let's see what he has to say. Take it away, Shox. Thank you, Letty.
Bye-bye.
Oh, well, I guess we're already here. Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the LEC post-game lobby, the online edition. I'm Shox, and I'm joined here by Vedius, and by, I think, the person who, if we don't have cameras, has the most expressive voice, next to also having a very expressive demeanor. Bwipo, welcome. He might not be there yet because he was sharing the headset with, I believe, Mithy, and maybe in Fnatic House they don't have that many headsets. And so, who knows what's happening? I mean,
Shox, it's very common. They've got to get from their gaming chairs to the interview lounge. Like, it happens in the studio all the time. We're just kind of recreating that feeling, So we can just chat about what a pretty crazy game that we just saw. I thought it was close up until it wasn't. It was one of those situations where I'm looking at Mad and I'm like, okay, Mad, this is actually pretty solid. Like, you've punished a couple of small mistakes from Fnatic. This is looking good, but then it just got to a point where every play that they tried to make, Fnatic was consistently outplaying them. And I'm glad we have Bwipo here because he was one of the big playmakers in this game for me. He was someone that...
Here?
I'm here.
Yay! Hi.
Welcome, Bwipo. It's great to have you. You can talk a little bit about.
It's great to be here. About last game?
Yeah, that one.
I feel like last game was a bit clunky. Like, from our end, it was like some plays were kind of fortunate in the early game. I think that, for example, Mad Lions had an opportunity to look on our bot lane for a dive before we quite got there, and I got, I wasn't sure what was going on, so I TP'd early to make sure that if they went for a dive, I could punish. Didn't quite work out. Tried to make the most out of my TP anyway, and failed miserably. That said, the Herald play as well, Aatrox TPing in, Selfmade making a clutch play, cleaning up the MF before dying, picking up the Herald anyway. Like, these kind of plays can go way worse, right? Like, Selfmade could have just died, they could have taken the Herald from him when it was low HP, and all of a sudden this game looks a lot difficult. From our perspective as a team, we didn't actually feel like it, because of these early game mistakes. Once the ball got rolling, we managed to take team fights quite handily.
I'd love to know what you think about Mad, if you can form an opinion, because we've had a bit of a discussion about who we think under the top 3 could have the most ability to upset or have a really good run in the playoffs, and then we thought maybe it could be Mad, but I'd love to know what you think.
It's kind of difficult to say because I feel like most of these teams are very... right now, especially in weeks 8 and 9, I feel like when I'm watching other teams play, I feel like a lot of the players are choking. And I know it's a term that's very overused, but The way I like to look at it is that there's a lot of pressure on these players, and they're making decisions that, they're going in times where it feels a bit too forced, and they're not taking fights that you feel like you would usually see them take and end up winning. And I think that makes it very difficult to say the gauge, the real strength of all the teams coming into playoffs, because I feel like a lot of the teams where you can reliably say that they're going to make a big play or that they're good at taking over games through certain ways, it isn't really showing. And I think that the strengths of a lot of teams, like Rogue, for example, I think Misfits as well as Mad, like all their strengths, they're kind of watering out, I guess. Like you can't really tell in the games that they're winning what's making them win, and in the games that they're losing, it just doesn't feel like they have much life at all.
Okay, I mean, that's fair. I think also there's something to be said for the fact that teams like Fnatic and like G2 are ramping up towards the playoffs. As we button up this game, the key player of the game, to my surprise, Bwipo, is Hylissang. With
no, I don't think that was a surprise at all. I think he played very well.
No, but I mean that people voted for the support.
I mean, I'm happy they did. Like he deserves it. He played really well today. I think it was probably one of the best games of the split for him. Like it's probably one of his best. It's a classic on his Rakan, of course.
Yeah.
The Drake fight, I think, set the pace of the game. The one where he ended up charming 4 people, knocking up 2 or 3. I think that really set the pace of the game, and we were able to take over from that fight. So I'm happy to see that he actually got the MVP for that.
Yeah, just to be clear, no shade from my side. It's just that support sometimes have a very hard time of getting voted.
It's true.
Hilly one. Yeah, there we go. So, Bwipo, now we want to take you into what could be a very interesting discussion. As you know, the MVP voting is on the horizon. It will happen after week 9, and we wanted to take a look at some candidates. Now, Mithy already nominated you, and I'm going to let Andy talk first and then let you answer. As to yourself, Bwipo, as an MVP candidate, what are your chances? And how much do you think you deserve it? But I'll let you think about it. Andy, do you think Bwipo deserves it?
Well, he's one of my candidates. From Fnatic, I thought a lot about who I would want to put on there, and I think, honestly, Bwipo has had a fantastic split overall. Not only in terms of, admittedly, at the beginning of the split, his laning phase was a little, debatable, but I think that he's ramped up pretty dramatically throughout the split. But what's impressed me the most is how much impact he's had on the map. And the Zac game was really the game that really stood out to me, where he was struggling in lane, at least it looked like it on paper, but then he went from that to consistently finding good engages, to roaming around the map, to peeling for his teammates, and you saw it on plays like Set with the Pantheon. We did get to see a couple of good Rengar games from him as well, and I feel like not only has he demonstrated a wide depth of champion pool, but he has been impacting the whole map very consistently, especially in the second half of the split, and for a top laner to do that, I think is very challenging. So he's definitely one of my candidates for MVP of the split.
Wow, high praise, Bwipo.
Wow, I can't really. I think my split's been pretty solid. I think in general, I feel like as a team, the games that we win, they feel very good. I think most of the games is like 1 or 2 mistakes that we're looking at and are like, this is easily fixable. And that gives a lot of confidence for me and to play my game. And in general, I think for the whole team, in the sense of, when we look good, we look really good. And I think that's like one of the biggest confidence boosts for our whole team. So for me, I mean, being MVP or not, it's not really a conversation I've ever thought of, because there was always Rekkles or Caps or whoever that I'm like, even if I got close, these guys are probably getting, Rekkles is probably getting it over me, or in 2018, Caps is probably getting it over me anyway. So, it's not really a conversation I like to think about too much. If I get it, I'd be really happy. But in general, right now, I just want to do what my team needs me to do to win. And if that's good enough, then that's good enough.
Okay, well, I can follow that. I also think it's one of those tricky ones, because you can be so damn good, but there are a lot of good players in Europe. I mean, and especially with a G2 around, and I think we talked a lot about Jankos and Perks, for instance. Can you follow that line of thinking in terms of possible MVPs?
For sure. I mean, I think G2 in general has looked like they're a solid team. I think that in general, they've looked, it's been a little bit different for them, because they had a lot of the Enchanter support top lane playstyle. That's obviously a style where they're going to look a little bit worse in the early game, because you don't actually have a top laner that's out pressure or anything like that. So it's a very different dynamic, and it has an impact on the rest of the team as well, right? I believe they played 5 games or so with that. So that obviously puts a dent in their in the rest of the team's performance because the enemy top laner can roam mid. Like the enemy top laner has a lot more pressure topside, so he can invade. Like the enemy jungle can invade Jankos' jungle more often and whatnot, right? So all things considered, I think their mid jungle has played very well at times. But I also feel like at least early on in the split, you could definitely tell that there was some lack of synergy between Perkz and Jankos. That said, now moving forward, I think they've fixed that and they look pretty solid. They've had both really good individual performances. Jankos on the Pantheon, for example, I believe last week he played 2 very strong games on that, and then even today, Perkz and Zakali looked very clean.
Yeah, indeed, and I think it's very hard to put anything against that, but you are right that when you have to think about how they're playing now, but if you take everything into account, maybe you could make a case for other players, but Perkz and Jankos, and I think just the sole fact that Perkz has never won an MVP, which we talked about already, is just crazy, and I think that speaks to the fact that you, for instance, are having one of the best splits you ever had, but that's not always enough.
Of course, like it's a competition, right? Like you're competing in the LEC. You're always going to try to be the best, but it's very hard to be the undisputed #1, right? That's why the MVP voting always has multiple candidates, and it's very hard to be like, okay, this is the guy that made the most difference, hands down. And that's why it's an interesting conversation, because everyone can add to their opinion, their look on the game. Like, what is this guy doing that other people aren't, and in these type of questions is all things you add up into the conversation about being MVP, because there's always the hypothetical of, is it the best player on the worst team, or is it the best player on the best team, right?
And I love that point, because when we think about certain, like Orome is a great example of someone that I think really shone on a team that was really struggling, and would he ever be in consideration for MVP, right? When you think about what he tried to do and the impact that he had on his team, it's a very difficult conversation to have because the team isn't winning. But what I think is really fascinating is someone we put at the mid-split was Alphari, and we recognized him as having a very fantastic first half, but then in the second half a little bit shaky. But then at the same time, he fills this role on Origin of pretty much doing anything that his team needs, very similar to Bwipo, but I think that the way in which they impact the map is quite different. So I'm curious as to what you think, Bwipo, in terms of, would Alphari be someone that you consider MVP worthy based on his split as a whole?
As a split as a whole, I mean, it's very difficult to say. The thing about like MVP for me is, like, I like a player that makes the team that helps the team thrive outside of their comfort zone. I think that's a huge deal for an MVP player, in my eyes at least, in the idea that Origin's a very slow team. So for me, to really see an MVP candidate in OG, I would need that player to be someone that can make the game fast. That will make him really shine out to me. What?
You on OG. You just
I don't know. This is the thing. I don't know if I would be able to speed the game. And of course, you know, you don't want a player that's speeding the game up backwards and your Nexus is exploding faster. That could happen if I would play on OG, of course. But you get my point, right? Is that you do, like, I think that's like what makes a team interesting, you know? I think Fnatic as a team, I think most people would be like, the bottom lane, Rekkles, Hylissang, Selfmade and Nemesis, synergy, right? So to have a top laner that, like, actually stands out a little bit is something that people will look at, right? Because it's like, oh, well, their top laner is doing something. That's great, right?
Yeah.
Finally, before we move on from the MVP one, is there anyone we didn't mention that you would like to mention, Bwipo?
It's hard to say. Like, it's hard not to be toxic, of course. Like, you know, like, a lot of my teammates played very well the split. I don't know if they deserve MVP or not, because it's very difficult for a player. Like, when I see my own teammates play, it's like someone has to be so much better than the rest that I would notice that they should get MVP, if that makes any sense. Like, that's why I think if you ask any of my teammates, it's not like anyone's going to be like, oh, this guy is, like, really shining. Because I think all my teammates are playing very, very well the split, and I'm just very happy in general with the performance of our team.
Yeah,
that said, trying to think.
Well, the thing is, it could just be this clear cut, right? Because I think in the middle of the split, we had a lot of, Febiven's playing out of his mind, but then Misfits dropped off a bit. So I think if you say Bwipo, Perkz, Jankos, I think you're doing a pretty good job. Of course, at LEC, if you want to flame us, no worries there.
I think that's a pretty solid round, I guess. I mean, I'm so surprised I'm there, but yeah. Right, Rekkles has had a really solid split. That is true. He has played very, very solid. I think that if you're looking at value from an idea of, like, can't go wrong, he is probably the most valuable player in Europe, right? You can't go wrong with having him, and I think that is one way of looking at most valuable, right?
It's true.
Definitely true.
Well, contentious topic, but I think, we've got some good names here. Let's move on to the standings. Important updates. G2, they have secured the first seed in the spring playoffs. The battle for fourth, though, it is still wide open. Yeah, is that a little bit of a rain on your parade that you couldn't lock in first place, Bwipo?
Not immediately. I mean, in general, unless G2 tries to be cheeky and picks us if we end up third, I don't think there would be a world where we would pick them if we got first and they got third for any reason. I mean, maybe we would for like mental advantage and all these things, you know. Teams like to think about that stuff. People like to talk about that and whatnot. But I think it's fairly clear cut that one of us is going to play OG and the other one is going to play fourth place, and that's just the way it's going to go. Again, if G2 wants to challenge us in case we get third place and go for the banger straight off the bat, then I'm down. But I think realistically speaking, we're both going to play a best of 5, and then based on the outcome, we're going to see each other. That's what I'm assuming. Of course, there could be upsets. That's what's interesting. That's what I like about this format, right? It's like even if we get upset or G2 get upset, we could still meet in the finals, right? And that's really awesome about the new format. That said, like I said, it doesn't really change much in the sense that unless G2 picks us, it doesn't make a difference.
I love how you look at it. It's like, oh, we'll still make it to the final anyway, and like all the lower place teams are like, yes, we have more chances to beat, to upset them. You're like, no, we're gonna.
That's just what I expect. That's what I expect. I do expect the G2 Fnatic final. I could be wrong, but I feel like all things considered, from what I've seen from a whole split so far, 17 games, I think that's quite enough to have an idea at least. And the way I feel playing against teams, especially online as well, right, is that in general, we're the most resilient teams, and I think resilience is something that definitely comes into play when you start playing several best of 5s. And with a losers bracket introduced, you can't just lose your best of 5, you know, like I don't know who's going to hit top 4, but let's say one of the newer teams hits top 4, they lose their first best of 5, and then, you know, they tilt. You know, I know people like using that word, but you get the point, right? And that type of resilience is something I think G2 has shown several times. Even in 2018 summer, when they ended up going to Worlds, it was something that nobody actually expected from them, right? And in 2019, there were several best of 5s. I was on the receiving end of that resilience at some point. They ended up crawling back to a victory, and I think that that's very important when you're looking at a playoffs format as a whole. And I think Fnatic as a team, we also bring that resilience to the table, and it'll be very hard to get rid of us in the format like that.
Yeah, I think that's a very apt observation. We'll see how those playoffs play out. As said, in terms of that top 4, it's still between Rogue, Misfits, and Mad Lions, but Mad Lions are the only team that have the destiny in their own hands. If they win tomorrow, that means they are that 4th place. Let's take a look at the schedule to see who they are playing tomorrow. I don't remember from the top of my head.
G2,
so
I believe, no? Mad Lions?
See, it's not easy, so that's what's in my head. Yeah, it's Origin,
It's Misfits.
actually.
Oh,
It's Origin. Third time's the charm. Hey,
All right, there we go.
I'd be pretty optimistic if I was a Mad Lions fan. If there's anyone out of the top 3 you'd want to play, I guess you'd want to play OG, no?
I'm not sure. Like, you'd have to ask them. I mean, they just asked us, so I don't think they want a rematch, do they?
So the thing is, right, the thing about playing G2 and Fnatic is that I think that both those teams are more willing to take risks, and as a result, there are closer windows of opportunity where you can take advantage of them, even though on paper Fnatic and G2 should have better players. But the problem with playing against Origin is you have to adapt a playstyle that is like Fnatic and G2, where you're willing to push Origin outside their comfort zone. So first you have to meet the quality bar of their players, and then you have to be willing to push them outside of what they like to do. And if you can't do that, then they're very difficult to play against, which is why I think Origin does so well against teams below them. And I think that Mad will struggle more against Origin just because of the nature of their playstyles and how they interact than they necessarily would against a Fnatic and a G2.
Okay. Well, final question for Bwipo before we let him go. I know we've been talking for a while, so it's Misfits versus G2. That's our match of the week. That's not necessarily what I want to talk about. Did you see the Kalista top today? And what did you think?
Oh, I didn't. I saw him play it, and I didn't see the early game though, so I can't really speak for that. Yeah, he was 60 CSO. I mean, I think that's like a given. Like that's necessary for this champion to work top lane. I think it's a given. Like I don't think there's any champion really in the game. I think there's like one champion in the game I can think of that can match Kalista early game. And if you're not willing to play that, it's really tough. So it's just a champion that I feel like he reminds me of Jace. And Kalista reminds me of Jace in the sense that if you're willing to pick this champion and you're willing to commit resources to it, then you really don't want to play against that. You know, like if you're playing against a team that wants to do that, you're just like, you know, as a top laner, I know I'm like, it's not like by any means that the game is lost if she has a 100 CS lead or anything like that, because it's not a champion that completely takes over team fights or anything like that, right? Like they actually have to play a good macro game from start to finish when you lock in that champion. So for me, Kalista in playoffs is mostly a champion that's like, people busted out game one, and if it works, enemy team will probably end up banning it, and if it doesn't, then you're 0-1 down, and you're like, well, at least we tried.
Sounds like G2 will do it 2 games in a row and lose against you guys and then turn it around. Sorry.
Maybe something like that. I mean, it could work. I'm just saying, like, it's a champion that, like, it's very much like Jace. It's something that, in a best of one, you probably just want to remove, because if the enemy team, like, if the stars align, they play very well around it. The pressure's too much. You don't find any openings to get kills, because I think that's their biggest weakness as a champion, is she's relatively immobile. In the idea that if you have some hard CC, some point and clickers, some Maokai's, Ornn-esque champions, it's pretty hard for her to do anything. However, if she doesn't actually end up getting locked down, it's very easy for her to take over a game and just be very strong in every fight coming up.
Okay, pretty nuanced opinion, not just pick Kalista, win the lane. Thank you so much, Bwipo. We'll be looking forward to your last game tomorrow, and then, of course, Fnatic in the playoffs. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave you be for now. We're going to say goodbye to everyone at home. Fear not, we will be back tomorrow for the last day of the regular season. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye.